It all started when I moved into this house newly. I had saved up every penny I could and finally purchased a comfortable apartment with a pool tucked neatly at the back. The first night I slept like a king, thinking I had made the best decision of my life. But the very next morning, I was jolted awake by the sound of splashing and laughter. I stepped out to my backyard and was greeted by the sight of a full on pool party. Three women lounging in my chairs, music blaring from a Bluetooth speaker, and floats bouncing in my water. Welcome to Prodigy Tales. Make sure you like and subscribe for your top notch HOA drama. Leading the invasion was none other than Karen. The woman I would later learn was a local legend for her bossy attitude and ability to bend the HOA rules to her will. She had a straw sun hat, big sunglasses, and that smug I own the neighborhood posture. I asked them firmly to leave because they were trespassing, but Karen barely turned her head. "Who are you?" she asked, like she had the right to know. I told her I was the new owner of the house, and she scoffed, claiming she wasn't informed of any sale and that she had contacts with the realtor who would have told her otherwise. I repeated myself, made it crystal clear she had no permission to be here, and warned her not to let me catch her here again. She stood up slowly, dripping water onto my deck, and gave me this tight smile. "We'll see about that," she said before leading her friends out through the gate as if she owned it. That night, I sat in my living room staring at my pool through the window, wondering if I had just met my worst nightmare. I didn't yet know how deep Karen's entitlement ran, but something in the way she said, "We'll see about that," told me she wasn't done. My gut was right, because in the days that followed, her shadow would keep showing up, sometimes literally, right by my poolside, uninvited. Before we dive in deeply, let us know in the comments where you're watching this story from. The very next day after our little confrontation, I decided to put up a fight in the most civil way possible, at least for now. I installed security cameras with wide angles covering every inch of the backyard, especially the pool. I also placed bright yellow, private property, no trespassing signs right on the fence and near the gate. It wasn't just for Karen, it was for anyone in the neighborhood who thought my home was some kind of community resort. I figured the bold warning signs would send a clear message. But as I should have guessed, Karen was the kind of person who treated rules like suggestions meant for everyone else. The footage didn't lie. Every time I left for work, she was there. Sometimes she came alone, lounging in my chair like it was hers. Other times she brought friends, snacks, and even a ridiculous inflatable swan that I had never seen before. I noticed she always entered through the back gate, and the lock showed no signs of being tampered with. That's when it hit me. She must have had a cloned key from the previous owner. Annoyed and out of patience, I went to the HOA president, thinking maybe I could finally put a stop to this nonsense. Big mistake. The president listened with a bored expression, then shrugged and said there wasn't much they could do. Turns out she and Karen were very close friends, which explained the dismissive attitude. It was then I realized I was alone in this fight. If I wanted Karen out of my pool for good, I'd have to make it happen myself. That's when I called my buddy, who happened to be a chemist. I explained everything: Karen's habit of invading my pool, her boldness, and most importantly, her vanity. I told him I wanted to give her and her friends an unforgettable pool party the next time they trespassed. He was intrigued, but before I made any moves, I needed details. Reviewing the camera footage, I noticed something crucial. Before every swim, Karen would spend a good 5 minutes lathering herself with the same brand of high end sunscreen. That was my golden ticket. I told my buddy exactly what I needed: a chemical that would be harmless to anyone else, but would react dramatically with that sunscreen. When my buddy finally handed me a small, sealed container of the special chemical, I treated it like a treasure chest. He assured me it was completely safe for swimmers without that particular sunscreen, but would cause a loud, undeniable reaction for anyone who used it. To be certain, I tested it on a small sample in a bucket. At first, nothing happened, but within minutes, the water around the sunscreen turned a shocking shade of deep green. The skin beneath, even greener. I couldn't help but grin. This was going to be beautiful. On the big day, I woke up earlier than usual, cleaned the pool until it sparkled, and poured the chemical in with precise measurements. The water looked clearer than ever, like something out of a luxury resort. It was bait, pure, irresistible bait. The sun was blazing, the sky cloudless, and I could almost hear Karen's internal radar picking up the perfect swim day. Sure enough, around midday, my phone buzzed with a motion alert from the backyard camera. I opened the live feed, and there they were. Karen and two of her friends, each with the same thick coat of sunscreen glistening in the sunlight. She had that smug walk again as she tossed her hat on the chair, kicked off her sandals, and dove right in. Her friends followed, laughing and splashing like they owned the place. The first few minutes were calm. Then it started. Karen was the first to notice. She looked down at her arms, eyes wide, and let out a sharp, panicked yelp. Green blotches were spreading fast, crawling over her shoulders and face. Her friends glanced at each other, then at their own arms, and the screaming began in stereo. They scrambled for the edge, tripping over each other in a wet, slippery panic. Karen was shouting at the top of her lungs, cursing me like I'd dumped acid into the pool. They staggered to the chairs, grabbing towels and phones. In a move that could only be described as desperate stupidity, Karen hit record and began ranting into her camera about how I poisoned her. She posted it, clearly expecting sympathy. But the internet had other plans. Within hours, her video was being shared, remixed, and turned into memes. My personal favorite? The incredible sulk. By the time I got home that afternoon, the neighborhood had already seen Karen's transformation. She was pacing up and down my driveway like an angry Hulk in flip-flops, still blotched in swampy green. The stench from the chemical reaction with her sunscreen, something between rotten eggs and burnt plastic, hit me before I even reached the gate. Neighbors were gathered at a safe distance, some pretending to check their mail, others blatantly recording the scene. The moment she saw me, she charged forward, jabbing her finger in my face and yelling loud enough to wake the dead. "You'll pay for this. You think you can humiliate me?" I pulled out my phone, hit record, and smiled. Um, Smile for the camera, Karen. That only made her louder. One of her friends, still partially green, tried to hide behind her, but the crowd was already laughing. Across the street, the HOA president appeared, probably hoping to control the chaos, but Karen's temper was like a wildfire. She started shouting about lawsuits, chemical burns, and how she was going to own my house after suing me. The president's face was priceless, like she wanted to disappear into the pavement. 2 days later, Karen made good on her threat to press charges. She marched into the police station, ranting about chemical assault and attempted murder. But the officers had already seen the videos, and, more importantly, my footage of her trespassing multiple times. They also noted the pool additive was perfectly safe and commercially approved, just not for her brand of sunscreen. The kicker? She admitted on record she'd been using my pool without permission. Case dismissed. The fallout was brutal. The HOA tried to distance themselves from her, but the memes kept the embarrassment alive. Local teens started calling her Shrek's cousin when they saw her at the grocery store. Even weeks later, you could still see faint green stains on her elbows. She avoided the pool area entirely after that, and my backyard finally became the peaceful oasis I'd paid for. As for me, I spent that weekend swimming alone, drink in hand, reliving the moment her face dropped when she first saw the green spreading. Justice hadn't just been served, it had been served poolside, with a side of humiliation. The end. Please like and subscribe for more HOA showdowns like this. Do you think she got what she deserves? Comment below.